Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Laura. Today I am going to show you my anime and manga pickups for the month of March. It's still fairly a substantial collection and a little bit random, and I'm still filling in holes, so quite a few older titles in this haul, but you know, just that's the plan for the year, and so that's what my hauls are going to look like for the rest of the year. I'll show you my anime first. I don't buy a whole lot of anime, and it's probably because I'm a manga reader, and so I'd rather invest my money where I'm really like using the material. I do like anime and I watch it occasionally, but you know, I'd rather read it than watch it, so I don't buy a whole lot. Although I do have a substantial collection from when I just got into, you know, anime and manga to begin with, so you know, one day I'll probably show or talk about that. Anyway, what I bought Kujibiki Unbalanced number 2. It's just a DVD disc, and I got it for really cheap. It was like $2.50 or something on Right Stuff. I think it's just, you know, it's not popular. It's sort of going out of print and nobody wants it. So it's actually, I actually already have Kujibiki Unbalanced. I just didn't have the second disc for some reason. So I just another filling in gaps, although it was sort of unintentional. This one I'm really excited about. It's The Little Mermaid. Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid. It's a Bandai production from 1975, and I have already watched it. I actually watched it right when I got it. This is an incredibly nostalgic title for me. My parents had recorded it off of TV onto a VHS tape back in the 80s when it had aired on TV, and I used to watch it all the time. And then I remember when Little Mermaid, the Disney Little Mermaid, came out in theaters, I didn't want to go and see it because this is the story that I knew, and this one follows the actual like fairy tale with the not happy ending. So I was actually a little bit concerned going to a movie because I knew that this one was already hard to watch, and I didn't want to go and see the other Little Mermaid because it was such a hard ending for me to deal with. And so I did really love this, but I always had to sort of like psych myself up for it, and you know, even as a kid I would cry watching this movie. So I watched it. The voice acting is so bad in it, and it's just like so nostalgic and lovely, and I'm so happy to have this. Yeah, it's pretty great. So the first thing that I bought is Gentleman's Alliance Cross, Volume 11 by Rina Tanimura. I bought volumes 1 through 10 at a secondhand bookstore last month, or February, and I got all of those volumes for about $2 a piece, so I just filled in. This is the last volume, completes the set. I read this when it first came out from the library. I bought it from the library, and I remember really enjoying it. I have read it now since rebuying it. I think I really enjoyed it because I was sort of new to comics and everything was sort of like new and fresh and interesting. I definitely downgraded my rating to about a 2-star on this one, and I might do a review kind of to talk about it, so I don't want to talk about it too much here, but Tanimura is still sort of an essential shoujo author to read, and it is sort of interesting, but I'm not sure that this one is particularly great. Still glad to have it in my collection. Another shoujo title, I bought volume 12, 13, and volume 14 of We Were There by Yuki Obata. And this is a sort of, it's, you know, it's a shoujo series. It's slice of life romance, or, you know, contemporary romance type story. I had sort of stopped buying this one because I found it a little bit dry. So the series goes to about volume 16, and I had just sort of picked up random volumes as I would see them for cheap, and I ended up getting these on a good deal, so that's why I ended up picking them up and filling the collection. It's now a complete series, and I will try and reread it. My tastes have changed so much since I started buying and reading manga, so you know, my first impression isn't necessarily what I should be thinking about it now, so yeah, I'll probably reread it in the near future. And then the last one that sort of fills a hole, and it's probably the most exciting book that I have in this haul, because I have been wanting to buy it since day 1, or, you know, day 5 of starting to buy my collection. And it's Uzumaki Volume 1 by Junji Ito. This is the original pulp edition from Viz, and it was published in 1998, so it's an early one. There's another release after this where all of the covers were, I think they were all solid black. I know the Gyo one is all black. I think that the Uzumaki was also all black. And then since then it's also been reprinted again in a 3-in-1 bind-up hardcover, which is really nice. I have borrowed it from the library. I have read it, but I just really wanted this one that matches my original set, and it makes me happy to have. It's in really good condition. I bought it secondhand, but I literally bought it for the cover price, or less than the cover price, so you know, it was a great deal. I've been looking for this forever, and it's been really hard for me to locate because I wanted this edition. Yeah, I'm just really happy to complete the set. I may buy the hardcover in the future, but this is the one. The Ice Wanderer by Jiro Taniguchi. I have already talked about this. It was in my March wrap-up, or my 5 favorite March titles. I really recommend it. I have since been informed that a hardcover volume is supposed to be released soon, so I highly recommend it, so you might want to wait for the hardcover to come out. But actually the paperback is a really nice printing. It's on a thick weight paper, it's got French flaps and things, so it's actually really good quality. It'll stand up for a long time, so I'm not disappointed owning a paperback copy. The next title I bought is The Four Immigrants Manga, A Japanese Experience in San Francisco, 1904 to 1924, by Henry Yoshitaka Kiyama, translated with an introduction and notes by Frederick L. Schott. And so this is probably going to be the earliest volume of manga in my collection now, but I will say the size of it, the color of it, the way it's like the cover design, it looks like one of those really unappealing textbooks that you'd have to read in a social science course in university. So apart from that, I'm looking forward to reading it. And that one was translated by Frederick Schott, but I also ended up buying his Manga, The World of Japanese Comics. It's just a nonfiction title. And it was originally written in the 80s, you know, back when the majority of comic fans weren't even aware of manga. And this one is a revised edition from '97. And it's really entertaining to read just because it is early days, you know, like these are not the comics that you maybe even would associate with manga that he talks about. Like, they're definitely older titles. Most of them haven't been released in English. And he gives a history of manga and sort of like its importance in Japanese culture. But then he also, in the '97 edition of this volume, he sort of talks about the process of writing this book and how originally, I thought this was great, originally he talked about how he didn't want to name it manga because nobody would understand what that meant. And you know, at the period in time, nobody would have understood what that meant, but now manga has become so like such a universal part of English language, at least. You know, even without the fandom, people understand what the word manga means. So I just really appreciate that. I like to see sort of not only the history of manga as a form, but also the history of manga as a culture. And in North America, it's, you know, it's got a short life. It hasn't been here all that long. So this is a really an entertaining book to read. I have a couple other books by Frederick Schott, so yeah, I enjoyed it. I bought it secondhand. I bought actually the same place that I bought the Uzumaki volume, so yeah, that's pretty good and fairly inexpensive. I bought it for less than the cover price, so yeah, good stuff. My sister and I have been sort of thinking about filling in our Osamu Tezuka collection. So anyway, I ended up buying a couple of Osamu Tezuka works that are available in English, just because we really haven't read too much, and there isn't too much in our collection, I think, and we really need to. So anyway, I bought Ludwig B. Tezuka Volume 1, Volume 2. I don't really know too much about this. Something about Beethoven. I don't know if this is biographical or not. I haven't looked at it at all, except for it said Tezuka, so I bought it. And then I bought Swallowing the Earth. And then there's a comment on the back here from Frederick Schott. He says, Swallowing the Earth allows fans of Tezuka to see how he began to make the transition from a children's artist to someone who could push the manga medium to the limit in every genre, even for adult readers. So this is probably one of his earliest, if not his first, adult title in the medium of manga. And he's so essential, one of the key players in sort of bringing manga to more of a wider audience, which is the reason why we get to read it here. So This will be an interesting read, and one that doesn't really get too great of reviews, but it doesn't matter to me, is Atom Cat. I don't know if this is just sort of like a retelling of Astro Boy via cat, or if this is Astro Boy's cat. I'm not really sure what it's about, except for, you know, Astro Boy is on the cover, so, yeah, it'll be a fun read. Like, you know, it might not be that great. You know, most people are saying it's not that great, but yeah, it really doesn't matter to me because it's written by Osamu Tezuka and has to be in the collection. And then there was a whole bunch of just sort of volume ones or single volumes of titles on Right Stuff that were just like really cheap, like less than $4. And so I just got to put a whole variety of things that I didn't have or didn't know anything about, so I'm not going to talk about them too much. But I put them all in my cart and pressed purchase, so here they are. So I bought Bus Gamer 1999 to 2001, the Pilot Edition by Kazuya Minekura. And this is the author of Sayuki. I believe that this is, you know, it's a game manga, one where, you know, they don't know that they're playing a game and then the game turns out to be deadly or, you know, something like that. You know, it's a scenario that you see over and over in manga, so it's just a one-shot volume, and it's from Tokyo Pop, so it's out of print, so I thought, you know, I might as well snap it up while it's there. I bought Voices of Love, I No Koe by Kanai Hazuki, and this is an adult kind of romance series. I think that it's just a bunch of short stories. I think you could probably compare it to like the majority of adult yaoi titles, you know, like the same kind of short stories. They don't look particularly in-depth. I was actually thinking I was buying something else when I bought this, so whatever, I'll read it, and I don't really have anything else like this in the collection, so yeah, that's fine. So the next title that I got is Samurai Legend. Art by Jiro Taniguchi, story by Kan Fuyama. I think in a previous video I had mentioned that I really wanted to get into Jiro Taniguchi's works. He is not the author of this. I think the majority of the times he's just the artist. Not just the artist, but you know, he's the artist. He's not the author. But I still have been wanting to get into his stuff. I don't have very many of his titles. I will be picking up more in the future. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to reading his titles. Plus I always like samurai stories, so this one should be good, and it's just a short, you know, single volume. So this one is kind of weird, and I'm still not really sure what I should think about this. It's Project Eiko #2, and I believe it's by Yuji Moriyama, and it's a full color manga. It almost looks like, I would say the art almost looks like 90s Archie comics. Like, it's not, it's just weird. And it's full color, it's all digital color. I don't know what to think about this. Project Eiko was really popular when I got into anime, so it's nostalgic to me. I have it on VHS, and you know, I thought it would be an interesting read. It's incredibly short, look at that. It's a magazine, and on the book it actually says it's $18.25 Canadian. Like, I can't imagine spending $18 on this. I don't know if there's any more of this, but you know, if you know, let me know. I might look for some more of it. I definitely am not going to spend $18 volume, but might be interesting to have a little bit more than just this little, like, tiny issue. Like, yeah, weird. The next title I'm going to show you is actually a full series. It's Volume 1, Volume 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of Gon by Masashi Tanaka. This is a really cute story. Essentially, it's episodic. You can pick it up in any volume. I would say if you want to give this a try but you don't want to buy the whole thing, I would say pick up Volume 6. It's the fattest. It's the most chunky. This is Volume 7, but number 6 has the most story for the same price, so that probably would be the best cost to you. I haven't read it, so I don't know which is the best story, but essentially Gon is this little dinosaur, little T-Rex. He lives in the wilderness, and he does things to either annoy or help other animals. It's a little bit violent. It's not for, like, the youngest of children, but it's ages 10 plus, so, you know, it's pretty much an all-age manga. And the one thing that's really unique about this is that it's completely wordless. I had originally believed that there were sound effects in it, but they didn't even have to translate sound effects. There's no words at all. A comic really, if it doesn't have words, it really has to stand up on its art, and this series actually has really excellent art. So you can see here, the drawings are really very good. I highly recommend this title. You don't have to buy the whole thing. Yeah, you can. I recommend it. You know, give a volume a shot because it needs some more love. And it's currently published by Kodansha, so it should be available. I have another one that's by Paragon Press, and I think it also was out by CMX earlier. I think I read some CMX volumes. And I also have it in Japanese, so apparently I really like it. It just was coincidence, but yeah, it's worth having a look at. And another full series because they were having a vertical sale on Right Stuff. So I bought Volume 1, Volume 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of Limit by Keiko Suenobu. This is about a group of students. They're going off to their fall camp out or whatever. My school did the same thing, except for my school did not have a bus accident where only a handful of the students survive. And so there's the girl that gets bullied, there's the bully girl, there's the weird girl, and there's a number of other characters that I won't spoil you on, but it quickly sort of degenerates into Lord of the Flies, or a version of it. And it's a really quick read. It's all one setting read. It all happens basically at the crash site, and it's an interesting title. I wouldn't say, I don't think it's as good as Life was, or at least it wasn't as impactful, but again, I haven't read Life in a while, and I never read it to completion, so I'm not entirely sure. And I've been putting this one off because it is such a thin little collection. These are just little tiny books, and they're, they're not very expensive. It's $11.95 or $12 Canadian, but it's still more than I want to spend on something like this, where I can get something at least twice the size for the same price. So they were having a sale, and this has been out for long enough now that I would suspect that it's either nearly out of print or is out of print already, and this is just sort of the last of the stock. So I wanted to pick this up while I had a chance, just because I really do like Suenobu. I did like this title, and I actually am planning on reading Lord of the Flies at the end of this month. So, it impacts my reading, and I think it'll be interesting to read again after I read that book. But yeah, it's a pretty good title. I think her art is quite good, and more than anything, Suenobu understands female bullying. So I thought it was a pretty good title. And the next four you've all seen before if you watched my favorite titles of March. The first one is Seraphim 2661333 Six Wings by Mamoru Oshii, Satoshi Kon. I talk about this in that video, so you can have a look at it. Highly recommend it for manga readers. Definitely, if you are a manga collector, this would be totally up your alley. And if you're interested in reading for deep meanings or historical context, this is a good title for you. I highly recommend it. I loved it, and I will read it again. This is a new release. Highly recommend it. So anticipating the next volume. Orange by Ichigo Takano. This is volume 1 of the omnibus, and I believe it's only going to be a 2-volume thing. It's a big chunker, and it's only $22 Canadian, so it's totally worth your money. A really great series, really unexpected, and the relationships in this are probably some of the best that I've seen in a long, long time. So I'm really looking forward to the next volume of this. Highly recommend it. You should go buy it now. Yeah, that's good. This one's been out for a little while, but it's Jacko the Galactic Patrolman by Akira Toriyama. And it's Toriyama. Everything he writes is charming and delightful and hilarious and funny and, pure gold, and this is no exception, and I love this so much. This might be my favorite of the 3 one-shots that I have. I also have Koa and Sandland, and but yeah, this Jacko is probably my favorite. If you're a Dragon Ball fan, you definitely should read this, because it does cross over with the Dragon Ball world quite a lot, more than you kind of expect when you're reading it. and there's lots of little surprises, and there's lots of little Dragon Ball surprises in this, so I highly recommend it. And then my favorite title for March was Yon and Mu, Junji Ito's Cat Diary, and it's another real short one, basically barely more than an issue, and it's a comedy from the master of horror, so he infuses horror into his comedy, and it's absolutely hilarious. Love it so much, and again, I talk about this in another video, so I will link that up and you can have a look if you're interested. And then the last 4 titles are all fairly new releases, and I haven't read them all yet, so the first one is Alice in Murderland Volume 3 by Kaori Yuki. I read the first 2 volumes. I wasn't super impressed, but I still think it's probably one of her better titles. It doesn't have a lot of depth to it. It's more just sort of, it's scenarios and kind of how bloody can it get. And, you know, like, it's okay. I'm kind of looking forward to reading more of it. I hope it's not a very long series. It is a little bit overpriced in my opinion, so I would wait and buy this on a sale if you wanted to read it. Volume 3 of Komomo Confessory by Maki Minami. I originally was not impressed with this title. It's sort of a really typical scenario of, you know, they're childhood friends and then they get separated and then they meet again when they're older and fall in love with each other. It's you know, it's that same scenario. The first volume was really typical, but the second volume actually got quite, or added a little bit of differences to that scenario that I don't see in every single title, so I was happy with that. So I'm looking forward to reading Volume 3, but I might wait until a little bit more of the series is out before I get going with that, so that probably will wait. I also bought Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun by Izumi Tsubaki. This is a gig. The format is all yonkoma, or 4-panel comedy, so it's, you know, setting up a scenario and then the joke is in the final panel. So there isn't a lot of depth in this story, there isn't a lot of character development. It is quite funny, and I think the comedy actually translates fairly well. I don't think comedy is the easiest thing to translate, so I was happy with the first volume. I think that this is one of those things that I find I have to be in the mood to read, so I probably won't read this until I'm in the mood for it, and I think the 3rd volume is out or coming out really soon, so I probably will be collecting more of this before I read any more. And then the last title is Uniyashiki by Hiroya Oku. This is the author of Gantz. This is volume 3 in the series, and this one is quickly making its way into my top 10 seinen manga. I am enjoying this one so much. I almost put it in my March favorite video. It probably will make its way in there if future volumes are as good as this one. It's just really exciting and interesting and different, and the fact that sort of the hero is a geriatric old man who sort of is sort of finding purpose with his life after kind of being so pathetic and disappointed with his life up to this point. So I'm really enjoying it. It's so unique. I haven't read Gantz, so I can't compare it. And the other character in this is actually a Gantz otaku, so I am tempted to pick Gantz up, but I know that it's long and expensive. You know, it is definitely an older teens adult comic, so it's not for everybody, but it's just really unique and different, and I'm really entertained by it so far. So I'm looking forward to more of this. Is one of my more anticipated serialized titles at this moment, so yeah, really good one. So that's it for my March manga haul. 38 volumes of manga, 2 DVDs of anime. I think it's pretty good. I've read most of the manga I bought in March so far. I'm happy with pretty much everything I bought, so that's really good because I tend to blind buy, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I always am buying good things. It just means I'm like buying things. So yeah, I was really happy with most of the titles that I bought this month, so I'm really happy about that. I have some really great titles coming in my April haul, which wasn't supposed to happen because I was supposed to be saving money, but you know how that works. It doesn't work. So thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed seeing all the comics that I bought, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.